Hello once again from the Midlands. I'm Patrick Burns, and we're turning the tables today on two of the Commons committee corridors' Grand Inquisitors. This, though, is where they face the questions for a change. Karen Lumley, Conservative MP for Redditch in Worcestershire. She's on the Transport Select Committee. David Winnick, Labour MP for Walsall North, is on the Home Affairs Select Committee, which he first joined, would you believe, more than 30 years ago. Very warm welcome to you both. Good to have you here. On the governorship issue, which was the concern we heard there from Bridget Jones, Karen, we're hearing of Muslim leading figures in the community saying that Michael Gove's insistence on Britishness in his new rules is making it more and more difficult for Muslims to serve as trustees, as governors in schools. And we're hearing that some actually have resigned in protest at one of the schools in question.
Well, I think, you know, we need good governors, and I'm a governor myself at two Redditch schools. And I think it's important that, you know, we need to make sure that governors are held accountable for what goes on in those schools. And I think, you know, whichever religion you come from, that's not irrelevant. This is about making sure that our children only get one chance at a good education, and they get it. If these governors are not holding their head to account or things like that, they shouldn't be governors, and they should be able to be stripped of that.
Fairly briefly, the senior teacher to whom David referred told the committee that it was impossible for the Ofsted inspectors to do an impartial job because of the extreme atmosphere around their investigation on extremism.
I wouldn't. I've been through several Ofsted inspections, and I think that they do a very good job. What I do think that should happen, though, and, you know, when I first started, Ofsted inspectors gave you 6 months' notice that they were going to come. Now they give you a very short notice, and I think they should just be able to knock on the door.
Of course, Karen, you are on the Transport Committee, but I bet if you were the MP for Liam Byrne's constituency, you would be pushing as hard as he is for as many jobs as possible, and he thinks that the HS2 depot gets in the way of that.
Well, I have every sympathy with him, you know, but he also said in his bit that there isn't many sites around of that size, which are brownfield sites, which I think is also a very important point to make. So I think, you know, we have looked at it again, the government, and come to the conclusion that is the best place for it to go. I'm very excited about HS2. I think, you know, it's a big feather in our cap in the Midlands, and only this last week we've heard that we're now shortlisted for the HS2 Academy, which I hope we're going to get to. I think, you know, we've done really well with HS2, and to scupper it in that little way would be a shame.
And what Karen, do you think about this suggestion of Chinese investment in it after we've had the visit of Premier Kachink to this country?
We should be open. We're open to Chinese investment all over. You know, bringing jobs into our country. I've got nothing against HS2 being invested by the Chinese, as long as we get it. I think the most important thing is we need HS2, and we need it soon as.
We heard your party colleague Jesse Norman say that this has been a disaster in Herefordshire, his experience there. Do you agree with him?
Yeah, well, I've had similar experiences at Redditch United, further down the scale, but, you know, Redditch United...
Well, Hereford and Redditch could both be in the Southern League pretty soon, the way things are going. Well,
let's hope not. But Redditch United have been, you know, in debt many times over the years, and many times have had to be bailed out. Now we've got, you know, new owners in who, at the moment, are doing a fantastic job, but I don't think it's up to local taxpayers, to be fair, to be bailing them out, although I go and watch Redditch United frequently, and they're doing a really good job, and they bring people in. But I think it's up to the townspeople to support them.
You know, there are very few thanks, it seems to me, for politicians from local authorities who do get involved in all. I mean, we've seen in Coventry where one of the fans groups actually ran a candidate against the Labour council leader there. So, in a way, it's a rocky road for any councillors thinking of getting involved in this.
Well, I think it is, but I think also that football, especially the small clubs, are also part of the community. You know, they actually provide things not just for the going to watch on a Saturday, but they provide youth teams, and they provide, you know, things for young people to do. So I think some people see their club as part of actually the community, not just a football club that's making money.
Lichfield Conservative MP Michael Fabricant got into trouble on Twitter again, suggesting he might punch newspaper columnist Yasmin Alibai-Brown in the throat. He's apologised. The PM said his comments were completely unacceptable. The Highways Agency says it's doing its best to speed up roadworks, which are causing horrendous traffic jams around Coventry's Tollbar Island. A direct rail service from Shropshire to London is back on track. It's due to be reintroduced by the end of the year.
It'll allow a Shrewsbury businessman to be in central London and able to do a full day's business and come back again.
Conservative Mike Bird remains leader of Walsall Council after a Labour bid to replace him failed. They have more councillors than the Tories, but don't have an overall majority. And 6 of the region's NHS trusts are in deficit by a total of £60 million. The University Hospital of North Staffordshire is in the red by £25 million. Worcestershire Acute Hospitals by £12 million.
And just for good measure, the Save the Alex campaign on behalf of the hospital in Karen's constituency tell me they're infuriated by what they call the breaking news that Worcestershire acute hospitals have failed to maintain safe staffing levels. Karen, you've been doing your best to stop this issue blowing up all over your constituency as the general election approaches, but it really could, couldn't it?
Well, Worcestershire Acute Trusts have not helped themselves. They have gone out to consultation nearly 3 years ago, and 3 years down the road we still haven't seen any financial modelling. You know, this should have been done, dusted, and we should have been able to get on with getting better services into the Alex. And I'm really disappointed that that hasn't happened.
Meantime, people may feel entitled to be concerned about the quality of the service if that's if what we're hearing, that debts are escalating very quickly.
Well, actually, the debt that I know is a little bit less than the debt that you're focusing, but even so, it's not acceptable. It certainly isn't acceptable, and it needs to be gripped, and they need to get on with what they need to do. But I think, you know, we've got to come up with a plan for the whole of the Worcestershire Acute Trust, and that plan has got to go out to consultation, and the people of Redditch have got to be able to have their say finally.
Very quick word before we go about the latest sort of Twitter indiscretion, if I can put it that way, by Michael Fabricant. It seems to be another gaffe another week. Karen first?
Totally unacceptable. Totally.
So will you be having a word with him when you see him during this coming week at Westminster?
I think he's realised the error of his ways, but I think that's the problem with Twitter. It's very instant.